going to be building a custom mountain and quarry house here on my island, which allows me to get infinite cobblestone just by flicking a lever. That cobblestone will definitely come in handy when I build a wither skeleton farm in a future episode, as I'll need a bunch of slabs to spawn proof a 100 by 100 area. And to get started, I've already started mining a little bit of all the major materials that we're going to need. So now we just need to place down the rest of our chest monster and our temporary workstations. Next up, I can start placing down the schematic that I built. And as you can see, this one is a massive project. And the first thing that I want to do is mirror it and rotate it so that it fits our island a little bit better. And then if we slowly bring it into the ground, then we should have a pretty good idea of how we want this to look in our world. The first thing that we're going to want to do is take some of our grass so that we can come through and terraform a bunch of this area so that it's a much flatter surface for us to build on. And now that we've terraformed most of the outside that we're going to need, we also need to make sure that we have a giant hole dug out right here that leaves enough space for our cobblestone farm. And now that we have a space prepared for the farm, we just need to build it up, because ideally I would love to run it as we're building the rest of this building. This is a super simple and efficient tutorial by Shulkercraft. I'll leave their video in the description in case you guys want to build this as well. For how much of a mess the redstone looks, it actually isn't terribly complicated. I probably couldn't explain it to you, but I at least could replicate it in my world. And now all we do to start the farm is go back here behind our chest system, and we flick this lever over to the right where it's turned on, and then we press that button and it should begin making a lot of pain and a lot of cobblestone. And I'm actually going to turn off the farm just for now, because I realized while I was building this that for some reason when you turn off TNT dupers like this, and I think leave the chunk is what caused it, the entire machine exploded. And I've already had to rebuild this once, and I don't really want to have to rebuild it another time. And now with the farm all built up, it's time to finally start filling some of these chest monsters. So let's kick it into the rest of the resource gathering montage. With this being the first mountain that I've ever built in Minecraft, I didn't realize just how many materials I would need to complete this project. To put it in perspective, my last building that I made was the iron farm, and that only took about 4,000 blocks. And this mountain build took over 15,000 blocks. Most of it was comprised of the 3 main blocks that went into the mountain, which was tuff, andesite, and basalt. After those 3 materials, everything else was pretty simple to collect. For collecting the basalt, I just ended up building a simple basalt farm. I'll leave that tutorial in the description as well. I just didn't really feel like risking myself in the nether, just for a little bit of basalt for a mountain. But as an added bonus, we now have 2 farms incorporated into this build. I'm hoping that this is positioned correctly so that the mountain will just kind of sit around it and hopefully cover this up, because I did not decorate it. And if you're wondering how this works, I kind of just put some trapdoors on there so that I would be safe. And all you do is flick these 2 levers, and all it's doing is alternating which one of these pistons is going at a time, so that it pushes you back and forth so that you can mine different sections of the basalt at a time. And then when you're done, you just flick both of those levers back down, and you can check in here all the basalt that you just mined, which is significantly safer than the nether. And since we've got both of our farms ready to go and all of our materials packed up in these chests ready to go for us as well, and we had actually quite a bit of chests for this episode. This is a massive mountain, like I was saying. But with all of that, we should be ready to finally start building the house that goes around our cobblestone farm. And before I give you guys a tour of the inside of this house, and of course build the massive mountain that we're planning on, it's time for us to take a quick break and work on our quality of life section. Now, last episode I got these 2 horses, and I asked you guys to drop some name suggestions in the comments, and you most definitely provided. In fact, instead of 2 horse names, I got 6. So I figured instead of making myself choose from those names, I actually think I have a horse or 2 around the island that we can then collect and breed them up and then we'll have 6 total horses. And now that we've got all of these guys ready to go, we can head into the library and grab 6 name tags from our mending villager, and then we can use the anvils in the toolsmith. And then we can take our name tags in pairs. For the first set, we've got Nay and A. Then for the little guys, we've got Finn and Oliver. And for the last big horses, we've got Oat, and over here, Barley. I just wanted to say thank you guys again for all of the cute name suggestions. I genuinely didn't want to pick between any of them, so I hope you guys are okay that I picked all of them. Like I said in the last episode, I do eventually want to make a horse farm of some sorts, so this is a really good collection to get us started. But that isn't the only thing that I want to check off today in our quality of life section, as it is officially episode 10, and we have accomplished so much in this world so far. I wanted to add my own quality of life section, where we start mapping out what the entire island looks like every 10 episodes. And I've got 2 spaces already in the cartographer room. Eventually, I'll probably make a dedicated space, but for now, hopefully this should do. Now, I'll admit I've actually not mapped anything properly before, so let's see how this goes first off. I mean, that could have been a little bit better. At least we got the corner of the tower, and now we should be able to just head this way and map this one, and then we can go down to the bottom of that map and start another, and again. And now just to put together all of the puzzle pieces. Now I believe I actually have to lock all of those maps so they don't continue updating. And to do that, we're going to grab some glass panes. And then I believe I should be able to take these off one by one, add them into the cartography table with a glass pane, and it should lock each of those maps. Now in theory, all of those should be locked. So I think I'm going to test this by grabbing an empty map, drawing something random, and if we open our map, and it's kind of hard to tell, but if you look in the bottom right corner, we do have some new pixels generated. And if we go up into our map room, we will see that there is pixels generated on our current map, but not on our original locked map. You guys can totally correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to accidentally lose this version of the map, but I'm pretty sure that is now permanently locked. So now with all of the horses named and our entire island mapped out, I think it's safe to say that we have definitely completed our quality of life section for this episode. I'm super happy with how much we have already filled up our map, and I'm super excited to keep on adding stuff to this world in the next 10 episodes. And in that spirit, I guess it's finally time for us to get back to building our current project and finish up the mountain that's supposed to go behind this build. And with that, our mountain is officially complete, and I'm absolutely stoked with how this turned out. So first off, let's backtrack and give you a tour of the cobblestone house. First off, walking in, we've got a cute little plant and all of our cobblestone collection system. Somehow I've got some kelp. Hopefully I didn't break anything up there. After you go through the storage system, you can come back here through this door where you can then check on any of the parts of the redstone in the farm. Again, you can turn it on right here with these 2 levers and buttons, or you can also head up this ladder into the second floor. I wasn't entirely sure how I wanted to design this, so I just went with a really basic interior. As you can see, there's a wall missing. I'll go into free cam to show you guys. For some reason, the lava on the farm actually keeps lighting this corner on fire, and luckily it doesn't spread anywhere past that, but I can't seem to figure out how to make it stop. So if you guys have any ideas, definitely let me know so we don't have to have a wall-less wall. Anyways, after you come up from the ladder, you're greeted by 2 cute little fireplaces that go up to our chimneys from earlier. Then you've got a nice simple desk with a lamp that you can stare out of this massive window. This is probably one of the biggest windows in all of my builds so far, which is definitely a change, but I actually kind of like it. And besides that, there's just a couple of shelves strewn about all of the walls, and that's pretty much all that this house has to offer. Mostly it's just for making cobblestone, so I figure I won't be doing more than AFKing in there, so it doesn't have to look too pretty. Now onto the mountain. I'm gonna have to get into free cam to show this one off because it is massive. I thought this thing was big in my creative world as I was designing it, but it was even bigger once I actually put it into my world. We can even check out on the map, it is just proportionally huge, to say the least. It actually looks really cool with all of the moss and the lichen, and it creates like a lot of highlights and depths in some fun places. I wish that I had been a little bit more intentional with where I'd placed the lichen, just because it would have been some really cool highlights. But hindsight is always 20/20 with projects like this. And either way, I am super proud with how it turned out. And I put just kind of a simple interior. One day I probably will turn this into more of a mineshaft entrance. But for now, I just wanted somewhere to access our basalt farm and make sure that nothing spawned in here. So I placed a couple of lanterns all around the cave and just made a simple campsite. And now if you want to access the basalt farm, you can still go on either one of these sides, head in here, and start mining away. One thing I do have to criticize about this build is mostly the placement in the world. You can kind of see on the map right here, it's placed right between a plains biome right here and some sort of coast right here, which looks a little bit funky in transitioning. So eventually I probably want to turn this area into like a stony coast that kind of represents the colors that are on the mountain a little bit better. And if you head over into this kind of wonky little corner, it is floating a little bit, but that is because I left it open for now so that we can still have access to our skeleton farm, which we'll probably have to make another build for in a future episode. And I'm not gonna lie, at some point I must have horrifically miscounted because I actually have a ton of materials left over from that build. I used probably like 60-70% of it, but it definitely has a lot more that wasn't put into the mountain, which probably could have saved me some time while I was collecting. But with that massive project complete, I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this video, and if you did, then consider subscribing, because I would love to see you guys in the next episode. And speaking of next episode, here's a couple that I think that you would enjoy.